of 365 Sports. Marc Daniels, voice of UCF Athletics, joins us on 365 Sports. Marc, thank you very much. The first year of UCF in the Big 12 has come and gone. The great lead up, and then, of course, now 4 new teams coming in July. Was there a specific call you had in the last year among all the things you had that was the one that stood out the most?
Wow, that's a great question. I don't know about a specific call. I think the game that UCF fans in football will certainly remember the most of their first year was the game against Oklahoma State. And the Cowboys came in off of that great win against Oklahoma, and UCF is kind of searching for that big win in their Big 12 rookie year, and then to have the game go the way that it did. They shut down Ollie Gordon early, and UCF offensively begins to make plays. R.J. Harvey was the best running back that day in the field, and it was a big win for UCF on a space game, which they've never lost with their uniforms and everything. So I think that was a signature win in football this past year for UCF, and learned a lot, excited, and as you said, Smokey, now we're veterans in this league. I mean, year 2, I mean, good grief. We're like one of the old guards in the Big 12 now, right?
Yeah, you are, with the 4 that now start their second year, 4 that are about to start their first year. And then if you really think about it, with TCU and West Virginia, they didn't come in until a little bit after, 2011 or 12?
It was like 11 or 12, yeah.
And really, there's just 6 teams from the original Big 12 that are a part of what is 16 teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, it's crazy. But look, one thing that I also learned last year, and people can view it however they want, I do think this league is in pretty good shape. I mean, you can say, well, nobody wants anybody in that league, maybe, but I do know that this group now realizes this is the best place for them right now. There's a lot of other change going on in other leagues out there. I think it helps this league that you don't have a third or half your league looking elsewhere. And maybe that changes down the road, but I think it helps solidify the Big 12. And I think from a football standpoint, guys, there doesn't appear to be any overwhelming favorite. I think a number of teams can make an argument why they can be in the hunt to get to a Big 12 championship game, and I think that makes for a great conference in football.
And that leads me to the question. We, all 3 of us, Craig, Paul, and I released our Big 12 preseason rankings. And for some reason this year, to me, it kind of fell into 3 different groups, with the midsection as a larger group. But last year, I mean, I struggled. I didn't know. And now we have 4 new teams. There's still a lot of the unknown. When you filled yours out, was that something that took a lot of time? Did you have to stare at it a few times, or did you kind of let it all fall together for you?
No, I think that's pretty consistent. Last year, you kind of looked at it, and were we ready to think that Texas was going to make a jump like they did? I thought Kansas State was going to be a really solid football team. I thought Kansas was going to be good, and, you had to have the year kind of develop. And then I look at this season, and certainly Utah comes in with experience. Arizona brings back some people from a really good team last year. Colorado, I still think they're trying to figure out. But I also think there are a number of programs that maybe didn't have the season expected last year. I think TCU is going to be significantly better. I think Iowa State is going to be better. So, I saw some of the stuff you guys were posting, and it sounded like, I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous. That team you have 10 should be third. It's like, But guys, is the gap from 4 to 10? It's not like it's a 3-win gap. It might be, a 1-2 win gap. And as we all know, so many of these games come down to a possession or 2, and that's the difference sometimes of going 6-3 or 3-6 or being 7-2 and still have a chance for the conference championship game.
Somebody just mentioned there are 7 from the original, because Colorado was a part of the original,
right?
And they're back, so that does count. Thank you, Bracket Cat, for letting me know that. All right, so KJ Jefferson, Penny Boone, a tremendous amount. You have Harvey back as well. That's one hellacious backfield, it appears, Mark, that Gus Malzahn has time to play with.
Guys, I think last year I said this, forget what announcers and the media thought. I think for UCF's coaching staff and players, they had to go through a season to really understand the Big 12 and learn about the quality and depth of lines offensively, defensively, how physical the league was. We've talked about a number of times about quality linebackers and safeties that are 6'2" and 210, 220. And I think UCF saw that firsthand. And I think Gus and his staff really said, okay, how do we get better? How do we hit the portal to areas that we've got to be better at? And then what about things that we can add to that we're good at to make us even stronger? And it's really interesting as UCF did this. KJ Jefferson is a really big get. The quarterback of Arkansas kind of fits in with what Gus wants to do. I'm not saying is as good as Cam Newton, but he'll play a type of offense like Gus did with Cam because of his size. R.J. Harvey comes back, and there was UCF sitting there with R.J. Harvey, kind of a dual threat in Johnny Richardson, an undersized speed guy, and all of a sudden Penny Boone kind of falls, I would say, lap or an opportunity, and you say to yourself, okay, do we bring in a 1,400-yard rusher with a guy coming back that has all-conference potential, and does it work? And yet R.J. Harvey was on board because Gus had this vision of how he can use both of them. Now, I'm not saying you're going to see McFadden and Jones as they had at Arkansas, but I think Gus saw what you can do. You keep guys fresh. You don't need to have your main back run the ball 25-plus times a game so that you get to the fourth quarter, and hopefully you're able to run the football and wear people down. I think Gus realized that last year. You've got to be able to establish a line of scrimmage. You've got to be able to run the ball. I think UCF's got a great backfield. I mean, they got 4 guys. I mean, they picked up Miles Montgomery, who's a quality back from Cincinnati as well. So they've got a lot of depth at running back.
So, Mark, it was for them some hit and miss, but for the most part, for the first year, I think UCF, proved they belong. Not that there was any doubt about that. There might have been some that thought there was a doubt about that. They seemed like it was a perfect landing spot, and now they understand all of what they need, like you said, and Gus has kind of reacted to that. Is that what you hear from throughout the program?
Yeah, I think so. Look, last year, and every team can do this, they were in several one-possession games. And all due respect, I think, the Baylor game, obviously a game UCF never should have lost. At Kansas State, they got the ball down 1 score in the fourth quarter, make a mistake with a backup quarterback, cost you the game. Kansas State was a better football team, but UCF was close there. West Virginia, blindside hit, fumble the football when you're trying to tie the game. So those are things that ended up making you be 3-6 instead of maybe 5-4. And then an 8-win seed, you feel really good about yourself. But, yeah, I think that they got bigger on lines. They needed depth at linebacker, needed some bigger guys in the secondary, and Gus has been very active in the portal the last couple of years. He'll tell you he's got his best team since he's been at UCF, and I think he'll tell you that he's got a more prepared team for the Big 12. Now they have a better idea about what this league is about. And from a distance, it used to be, hey, just pass the ball, score 50 points first and win. Well, I think UCF saw it last year. You better have guys in the offensive and defensive line, otherwise you can't win in this league.
Brett McMurphy's an Oklahoma State grad, the writer for Action HQ Network, and he said his daughter goes to UCF, and she was like having fun with that blowout win against Oklahoma State, and he said, nothing can bother me right now because we beat Oklahoma in the last ever meeting, so that one didn't count. But that was what happened that game?
Sometimes guys, stars align, and I think, Oklahoma State comes off the emotion of the win in Bedlam. There's a tendency to have a little bit of a letdown. UCF, space game here means funky uniforms, a jacked up crowd, and then some things go your way early. UCF's defense is shutting down Ollie Gordon. They can't throw the ball, and the Knights offense is winning the battles, and then the rain comes. So by the time the rain came, I think Oklahoma State had checked out. It became a 3-possession game, and then things just kind of snowballed, and then it slips away. Do I think that UCF was 7 touchdowns better than Oklahoma State? No. On that day they were, and things just fell in line. And UCF needed one of those. A lot of close games where things didn't go your way,
right.
and you're gonna have to have that. So I think it just all fell in line last year for them in that particular game. But now I think they've got a team that can sustain drives, that can stop people in a better position. However, they'll play the most challenging schedule in UCF history this season.
All right, so what was your reaction or that around the athletic department on the Brett Yormark and the Big 12 and naming rights for the conference, and also even the possibility of private equity firms?
So, look, on the naming rights side of it, if somebody comes along and says, we'll give you $30 to $50 million to slap our name on your conference in an era now where you're trying to find new dollars, I don't know the downside of that. there's no shortage of wannabe stand-up comics that seem to have anti-Big 12 feelings to begin with and want to take shots at and everything. And people go, well, what's an additional $2-3 million per program? A lot right now. I mean, that's significant money. I don't know what their name's going to end up being. There'll be no shortage of people that'll take shots at it. And Smoke, you know this, and I said this on my show too. I love the guy on Twitter that wants to take a shot at the Big 12 that worked for a company that was bleeding money that if it didn't get an infusion of cash from somebody, that they wouldn't be in existence.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this in all due respect. I love a ton of people that work for the Athletic. You can't take a pot shot at the Big 12 because if the New York Times didn't bail you out, there'd be no athletic site. Or I love the guy that works for the large, sports company with 4 letters or one of the others that is ripping the Big 12's naming rights while his column has 8 links to sponsors. I mean, what are we talking about here? It's just where business is right now. On the private equity side, here's the other thing that bothered me also. Has anybody read what the deal is? No, there is no deal yet. So at least learn what the terms are going to be. People said, well, the minute you let private equity in, they're going to cut all your non-revenue sports. You think that you think the private equity group doesn't understand about what Title IX is? And do you think that Brett Yormark and ADs and presidents haven't said, look, if we take this on, whatever private equity company, these are things that can't go.
Right.
We just can't get rid of them, And I think there's a big difference, a significant difference. And I'm not a financial genius, but I know a little bit about some of this stuff. There's a big difference between private money and private equity. Significant difference. And let's learn whatever the deal ends up being if there is a deal. Let's see what the terms and conditions are before people just make assumptions. Because there are people out there going, they just gave 20% of the league away, and the first thing they're going to do is they're going to cut all these sports and so forth. That is not going to happen because of Title IX. And let's see what the terms and conditions are. And I'm not saying it's going to work, but I don't think the Big 12 is the last conference looking for additional dollars.
Well, and the reason why the Big 12 or anyone else is looking for extra money is because everybody else who's in a different conference now left because they were wanting more money.
Yeah. Look, it's a challenging time. I say this as UCF is embarking, like everybody else in our league, in a different era. And every school has advantages and some challenges. I'll say this about UCF, and I'm not speaking for our athletic director. Guys, again, we get half share again this year. The 4 new ones get full shares. So remember, half of UCF's half share goes to the American to finish the buyout. So in 2 years or following next year, when the new economic model from the House versus NCAA settlement takes place, whether it's $20 or $22 million, and there's a lot of budgets right now going, where does that money come from? UCF's got a little bit of an advantage. Why? Because they're going to get this jump in media money that they don't have right now. So to go from what has been about 9 to 10 million, because half has gone to the American for the buyout, and next fall, as you go into that year, where now you're looking at 40 plus, that's 30 million more than UCF had been making. I'm not saying they take all the money out of that to do the rev sheet, but they've got that new money where a lot of other existing programs aren't even spending that money. That's a big advantage as UCF kind of figures how to do this in the next several years, because they're operating on a smaller budget because we're not getting a full media share now.
Great point. Mark, thank you very much. Enjoy the summer. Will you be in Vegas?
Well, someone's got to get out there, so you have to do what they're asking you to do. So, what am I going to do? You got to go, right?
Yeah, you got to go. We'll see you there. We'll be there, too. Can't wait. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate your time, as always. Marc Daniels, voice of UCF Athletics, with us on 365 Sports. Appreciate that from him. When we come back,